I will discuss to you about big data. So when we say big data class, these are the large amount of data or data sets that grow so large that they become awkward to work with using on-hand database management tools. So like for example, we have example of big data that we have for this time. We have the tweets from Twitter, comments, FB comments, Twitter comments, posts. So those are, pag pinagsama-sama natin, magiging big data sila. So big data. So they are data sets that grow so large that they become awkward to work with. Mahirap siyang i-manage using DBMS. Some example of DBMS class are MySQL, MySQL. So the most popular one, we have also Microsoft Access. So it is one of the Microsoft Office tools for databases in order for us to manage our database. What does database means in our previous lecture? With our previous lecture in the data information database and data warehouse. When we say database class, these are the collection of data. And DBMS, the software or tools that manages the database. So that's the difference between database and database management systems or tools. So it is big data. Because of the large amount of this big data, the database management system is very, or it cannot manage the big data. So the challenge now class is capturing, storing, searching, sharing, analyzing, and visualizing the data. So there are characteristics class of big data, and these are volume, okay, the variety, and the velocity. So when we say volume, it is the amount of data, or the large amount of data we are getting from many sources. Like for example, of many sources from websites, feedback form, so any paper-based and online or soft copy or or online data or online platforms rather. So online platforms like, for example, customer reviews of a specific product. Like for example, iPhone 12, right? So it has reviews online. Saan natin makikita yung mga reviews online ng iPhone 12? Of course, we can see it online or from the internet. Online, like in Lazada, Zalora, um, and of course, we have also their own website, apple.com. So this is where, or those are sources of the data, or sources of the data. As the world becomes more and more instrumented. When we say instrumented, there are so many tools, right, that we are using right now. So like social media or SNS, and say SNS, social networking sites, and etc. So variety, the second characteristics of big data. Data we receive can be structured, semi-structured, or unstructured. When we say structured class, it is in table, or it is in relational database. So naka-table siya, meron siyang attributes. These are the attributes. And these are the records or tuples of those attributes. So an example of an attribute is the field names, which are maybe M name, F name, of course, F name, and the customer's feedback. So those are examples of variety class. So we have also, or variety is structured rather, so structured. Semi-structured class, it may be organized or in relational database or unstructured, when we say unstructured class, parang parang hindi siya na-organize sa isang database. So, kahit saan sa website, kahit saang platform siya nanggagaling. So that is variety. So the in its form. So we have also velocity. We are being bombarded with this data at huge speeds all the time, anytime. So just like in physics, so velocity means this distance over time, right? So in here class, in data mining, these are the data at huge speeds over time. So all the time and anytime. So di kinapaspas na or the speed of the data which are being reproduced so all the time and anytime. So those are the characteristics of big data. So an example here of volume class is this one. 2.5 quintillion or 2.5 million trillion bytes of data are created each day. 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years alone. So can you imagine, class, that only 2 years they have created 90% of the world's data. So very what do you call this? Very fast, right? Or rapid yung pag-increase ng data natin. Nung nasulat yung nasulat yung IM na to or instructional material na to is 2013. How much more hindi nila alam na nagka-COVID tayo ngayon. So baka mas marami na yung data na nadagdag dito sa 90% na to. Right? So that is, so we have here variety, another example of variety. So 80% of the world's data is unstructured. So it may be data we've collected before, but they could not be processed. So they could not be processed, the unstructured. So yung hindi pa organized, yung 20% organized na siya. So yung unstructured, just like what I've told you a while back, they are not organized or they are not in a database or in a relational database. Yung structured naman, naka-organize siya, naka-table siya, or naka-save siya sa repository or data warehouse ng isang organization. So can you imagine, 20% lang yung organized na data and 80% lang. So the challenge now, class, for data analysis or for data analysts, the challenge for them is to organize the data so that they could use it for decision making. That's the challenge for decision making. That's the challenge of the data analyst today. Okay, the next one we have velocity. So just like what I've told you a while back, the speed of the data or the speed or the amount of data over time reproduce or produce all the time, anytime. So there are two types or there are two characteristics of velocity, and these are the data in movement and data at rest. So when you say data movement, so as can you see, it is moving, right? It is dynamic and it is in streams. So Twitter, an example of those data in movement are Twitter and Facebook comments, stock market data, sensors the vital signs of a newly born. So those are the streams. Streams kasi it is active, right? Dynamic. And data at rest, so oceans. Like for example, yung mga blogs ninyo, web blogs, or yung mga blogs ninyo, yung emails, yung doon sa social media, yung mga post ninyo sa social media, the unstructured documents, forms, claims are examples of data at rest. Kumbaga, pag na-post mo na, parang hindi na sila kailangan. Unlike dito, pag na-post yung post ninyo, na re-retrieve na, meron kasing algorithm yung Twitter at saka yung Facebook na parang ire-reuse niya yung mga post ninyo para magpakita dun sa home tab ng Twitter kung ano yung trending topic, yung Facebook comments, yung mga trending, right? So meron silang algorithm para ma-reuse yung mga data natin doon. So those are the characteristics of big data, big data velocity, the data in movement, and data at rest. Okay, how to use data to learn about customers. So those are the business challenges. Task to learn about this data. Know where to look for the data. So the first one, business challenge, is how to use data to learn about the customers. So say for example, the customers. You need to know about the behavior of customers. What are the topmost um, products that they want to be, or topmost features of those products. So what are the feedbacks, the sentiment analysis of those comments. When we say sentiment analysis, the good comments and then the bad comments. So those are sentiment analysis. So from databases of, or kapag naka-database na kasi siya, it means na naka-structured na siya because it is in table form or naka-relational database siya sa information system ng website or ng Lazada, ng Zalora, ng Shopee. Okay, it can also be from flat files, data in documents like Word, so hindi siya structured. These are unstructured database. Flat files, data in documents, Word, weblogs, comments from websites, unstructured sila kasi hindi siya organized in a table form. And then what the data says about the customers, so that is the hidden information. Okay, so you need to discover that hidden information out from the unstructured and structured data. Sentiment analysis, okay, so that is what I'm telling you a while back, last sentiment analysis, if they have comments about the product, if it is good and bad. So buying trend. So this customer, so it is, Lazada has its algorithm para malaman kung ano yung pinaka binibili nitong customer na to. So recorded sa kanila 'yon. So it is one of the feature of the Lazada, and where the data about customers are. So task to learn about this data, first is to identify the data. Like for example, the customer. Okay, you want to know about the buying patterns. Yes, the buying patterns of that customer. You need to know more about that customer. So you need to know its, of course, the location of that customer, maybe the location, maybe it's what type of product did he or she usually bought, or usually search via your information system or via your website, right? So is it phones or CPs, digital or gadgets? Is it for beauty products? Okay, so it can be. So you can identify the data of that customer. Locate data sources. So saan natin kukunin yung mga data na yon? Of course, in their website. Sa website ng Lazada, okay lang. And then, kasi yung website, meron tayong tinatawag na logs or audit trail. Pag sinabi nating logs class, pag sinabi nating log, ano yung, saan siya pumunta na part ng website. Like for example, saan yung customer na to, saan siya pumunta? Sa web page ba or sa page ba ng beauty products or sa page ng mga gadgets. So we can locate the data sources. Load the data. So of course, if we have collected the data, we can load the data in a standardized and usable format. So, dapat naka-standardize yung data natin. That's why there is so-called a normalization. So, we're in computation of those data to be normalized. When we say normalized, dapat standard yung format ng mga data natin na pinapasok natin sa data warehouse. So, convert it into usable format. And of course, the most important one, analysis of the data. And lastly, interpretation of those data or convert the data into usable knowledge na mapapakinabangan ng company natin or ng organization. And then, so nowhere to look the data. So just like what I've told you a while back, warehouse, unstructured and structured. So pag naka-warehouse yung data, of course, kapag gumamit tayo ng warehouse, actually loading our data in the data warehouse in a standardized format or normalized format. Kaya yung warehouse natin is considered as structured. Yung site browsing history, the system has feature of those history or site browsing of the customer, kaya organized din siya. So that is structured. And then comments on website, comments hindi siya organized kasi tinitignan pa rin natin unstructured kung sino yung nag-comment, i-organize pa rin natin. Pero some of the website can structure the data if they have the customer's database. Kapag may customer's database, then the comments of customers on the websites of Lazada or Zalora can be structured. Pero comments on website, kasi yung sinabi niya, so maybe from Lazada, from Zalora, iba't ibang platform, from social media network, kaya naging unstructured siya. Customer surveys semi-structured because it might be from forms or surveys and from websites. Okay, so we have here analyze petabytes of data. The amount of data may need to be analyzed will be in petabytes. So, petabytes, can you imagine? Petabytes, approximately, yung USB nyo, right? Yung USB nyo, 1 gig lang siya. So, mas marami pa doon sa 1 gig na yon yung i-analyze, so petabytes yon. Yung i-analyze na data na masisave doon sa data warehouse. So, 1 kilobyte is equal to 1,000 byte, 1 megabyte, 1 million bytes, 1 gigabyte, 1 billion, terabyte, 1 trillion, 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 1 quadrillion, and then 1 petabyte, 1 quintillion bytes of data. So, analyze. Okay, so let's analyze if this data class or big data is characterized into volume, velocity, or variety. So the 3 types of big data or the 3 characteristics of data. Analyze 12 bytes, terabytes of tweets being created each day to figure out what people are saying about your product. So the 12 bytes there is considered as volume since 12 bytes. So amount of data. And tweets is variety. So when we say variety class, it is structured, right? Structured siya. And then we have here, take thousands of sensor readings collected in every hour per patient. So yung thousands, of course, volumes. Thousands, it is volume, right? Sensor readings, variety. So it is sensor readings, structured siya. And then we have make risk decisions such as whether or not someone qualifies for mortgage in minutes by analyzing many sources of data. Okay, many sources of data is volume and including real-time, so real-time velocity. So the amount of data over time. real time, real time data. And audio and video feeds. So audio and video feeds are considered variety. So it is unstructured yung variety natin. And then the velocity, real time velocity, the real time is in velocity of big data. Velocity kasi real time. So as time passes, meron yung data natin is nagre-reproduce ng more and more data. And then the next one, petabytes. Petabytes is volume and weather data are variety. Weather data, unstructured. And petabytes volume. Okay. So big data and analytics, Watson competed in Jeopardy in 2011. 200 million pages text is loaded in memory using big data technology. So, yung software na ginamit nila doon is IBM Big Insight. Analytics is used to process loaded data. So, that is the software of the IBM Big Data Technology. So, okay class, so for our recap, we have big data. When you say big data class, large amount of data sets. Okay, and then there are three types of big data. We have the volume, okay, the amount of data, yung volume natin. Yung variety, the variety means its form, or it is, if it is unstructured, semi-structured, and structured. So when you say structured class, it is in organized manner or organized way. And then velocity, the amount of data being reproduced over time. So that is big data class. Examples of big data are Facebook comments, Facebook posts, comments, tweets in Twitter. So those are, pag pinagsama-sama natin lahat, yung tweets from the very beginning of Twitter, magiging big data siya. Okay, so that's it for big data. Have a good day, class.